Good morning. This is Jack from the Rth Charts, and this is the intraday recording for Monday, the 23rd of November. Our disclaimer: we do this for educational purposes only. We're here to share our technical analysis with you. We hope you can take some of what we're doing, learn from it, transfer it to your own charts, and are here to issue trading signals. Right now, we had a buy signal on Friday morning on ES, and that hasn't made the possible near miss target yet. It doesn't have to, but it might. So obviously, we have been testing the weekly pivot a lot. We have found resistance there so far, and obviously so far this looks like a flag. We've got a nice distinctive marginal higher low there. We've got a nice distinctive marginal high there. This is a pretty nice looking bear flag channel. And it may well be failing. I was disappointed not to get any negative divergence at the high, but then we had a news spike on PMI. So, it is what it is. We may well get a retest of that level. If we do, that could be the second high of a double top, as we came back more or less 50%. Watching that, and I'm also watching declining resistance in the 3600 area. I'm also watching the 5DMA and the 50-hour moving average on SPX, currently in about the 77 to 80 area on ES. And we obviously spiked over that area this morning and then rejected back below it. That is the key short-term resistance. NQ. NQ has been doing very little and might be forming a short-term triangle as well as being inside a very arguable larger triangle. RTY had a very good week last week. It was ES, the weekly pivot, a pretty good judge of how it does the previous week, is the weekly pivot dropped about 8 handles on ES. It actually rose considerably on RTY, and you can see that RTY is at a new all-time high this morning. So do we have a little bit of negative divergence? Yes. Could this be a nested double top? Yes. We will see, but it's not on a daily sell signal yet, and unless we see some weakness, it's not going to be. So YM, of course, down is on a daily sell signal. That's quite a nice one. We didn't quite retest this high, I don't think, or did we? Yeah, we did retest it. All right, in that case, we're on a daily sell signal, and we've got a nice looking potential level top here, and we are testing the weekly pivot as resistance. The 60 minutes buy signal here has reached the possible near miss target, albeit just about. We will see decent resistance here. Could this be an IHS forming? Potentially, yes. And the other thing to consider this week, of course, is that we do have a holiday week this week, and the historical stats for Thanksgiving week are actually fairly bullish. In terms of DAX finally went and did what I've been expecting it to do, which is it went and retested this high. It could go higher, but equally this could be the second high of a double top. The STX had already retested this high, which is quite a way below now. But it went and retested the last high and made a higher high as well. Again, could be a second high of a double top. Not really seeing an awful lot to indicate that's the case, though. Let's have a look at the Rth charts, where I found something very interesting at the weekend. Now on the daily chart, look at this. Now I've been assuming that that our SPX wasn't on a daily sell signal. Why was that? Because we hadn't retested this high. But actually, I had a closer look. This RSI high actually corresponds to this price high. This basically was a spike up and didn't leave much of an imprint on the RSI, which was, in any case, pretty low beforehand, and it takes a while to catch up. It's this which corresponded to the high, and this higher high on price corresponded to the lower high on RSI. We are on a daily RSI 5 sell signal on SPX. We've got another one, well, let's got another one on Dow. On the daily there, quite a nice one. IWM, I don't believe we've got one yet, and the reason is that we've got all the divergence we could want, but what it hasn't done is do the decline. It needs to fix. It needs to fix with a daily close below this level on RSI or this level on RSI, and it hasn't had that yet. So waiting to see that one. We came very close to a sell signal here on the RSI 5, but it's not delivered yet because we're still making higher highs for whatever reason. In terms of the 60-minute charts, I don't think we've got any open signals there. This looks like a triangle or flag forming on SPX, and I think that's probably because it is. And in terms of the 60-minute chart, NDX is just drifting sideways really. I'm drawing in a potentially larger triangle which could involve a move down into the 11,100 area. In terms of the IWM, Is that the daily? Yes, 60 minutes. Sorry, the controls actually obscure some of my tabs. IWM, we've got no divergence there. Didn't have any at the low either. And on the Dow, we did have a 60-minute buy signal here on the RSI 5, and that's basically made, with the gap up, that fixed and made target more or less in the same candle. That happens sometimes. In terms of what Stan was talking about, in terms of how overbought we are, by historical standards, it's not huge. But I would say this is the 45 DMA. I've got that at 3440. It is modestly overbought. I mean, we were 200 above there, which was a fair amount. In terms of some of the highs we've seen here, so 6.8%, 8.7%, 8.4%, 7.13%. These are all very big by historical standards. A lot of highs we've had in the past are actually. I mean, if you look at this as a percentage, that's 5%. This high here was 3.5%. That's 4.2, 5.4. So the question is, are we judging it by the standards of these? Or are we judging it by the standards of these? I'm still currently judging it by the standards of these, post-March, in which case we're not particularly overbought, but we have got sell signals, and apart from the fact that it is Thanksgiving week, and that is worth remembering, we have a pretty overall bearish looking setup with some nice sell signals. Now, I'm just going to have a quick look at, I'm just going to talk to you about the stats for the historical stats for the next few days. So we've got some time, we've got a little time today because of course we don't have the open to worry about. So I'm just going to run through a few stats. Tomorrow we have two significantly bullish days this week. More on Dow maybe, but we've got Tuesday was 62% green closes. Friday is 71% green closes. I'm not actually sure. No, I've got this down as a shortened trading day, but not market closed on Friday. In terms of Monday, Monday is actually the last day of the month, and actually is significantly bearish after Thanksgiving. So that is a 40%. And actually, the whole of next week leans slightly bearish, apart from Thursday, which leans slightly bullish. So following week, pretty neutral. So really, this week we've got some fairly bullish stats historically. In terms of where that leaves us at the end of the week, that leaves us positioned for a decline depending on what's happened this week. So it could be that we go and do the decline, but it may be that we wait until then. We've only really got three trading days, and of course we're part way through one of them before the weekend. And we've got a half day on Friday. And Monday is significantly bearish. We do have a significantly bearish setup here. This should go lower. But just a little concerned about holiday tape. I've seen some surprising things happen, obviously, in holiday tape. And the Thanksgiving stats are relatively bullish. Okay, let's have a look at other instruments. And let's have a look particularly at DX, ZB, and GC. DX. Now, we were looking for a lower low here. And Stan's speculation is that we would actually then start a larger rally when we got there. Now, this is an interesting one because I'm going to show you the bigger picture chart on that, the daily chart, and I'm going to explain why that would make a lot of sense, even if I'm not seeing a huge amount of reason to see it. Now, we've retested this low. We now have a possible daily RSI 5 buy signal brewing. This low has been retested, I think. Where was the low this morning? No, 92. It hasn't quite been retested. So I would have thought that would probably need a retest. So the rally we've got off the low this morning probably is before the final low, which should be down here. But the question is there a case for a decent rally afterwards? And actually the answer is yes. And the reason is here. This rally went up about 25%. This is the 23, 38, 50, and what could we be doing here to deliver a larger retracement? As retracements go, 25% is pretty minor. We could, obviously, break up from the pattern, make the retest, and then we would have a double bottom, which potentially is already formed, but normally I'd expect to see a full retest of the low, but we would not necessarily always get it. But the thing is, of course, then you've got a pattern which takes you almost exactly to 50% retracement, which I've got just under 98. Could we see a rally that large? I'm having a little trouble seeing it, but it's a big established support level, and this has been, impulse retracement and so on. 25% is a very small retracement, and we've got a similar looking setup inverted on oil, where of course we again had a very shallow retracement, more like 30 in that instance, but very shallow nonetheless. Is Stan's plan of coming down here, making a larger lower low, and then spiking up into a larger rally, is that credible? Yeah, on that basis, it may happen. So we actually made this lower low this morning. It's not the main lower low, but it has retested this low here. This could be a small double bottom. This could be a larger double bottom as well. It's not ideal, but I've seen these play out often enough. Although it would make it more likely that this would turn out to be a flag, head up into the 94 and 94.7 to 98 area. No, sorry, that would be more like 95 area, and then fail there. Could we do that? Yes. Have we had a nice spike off the low this morning, which has actually been sustained, I think. Let's just have a look at Euro. Yeah, it has. Yeah, we have. We haven't quite retested the high on Euro. I'm really leaning towards seeing that retest, but we don't actually have to have it. So, warning. We may be seeing a large rally starting soon on DX, and it could be starting now. What implications does that have for gold? Well, gold... I was saying on Chart Chat yesterday that, of course, we'd got to the 38.2. We'd established a pretty strong floor at 1850. But in the event that that floor broke, which it might well do if the dollar was engaged in a more serious rally, then we could head down into the 50. Let's have a look at that. So, and that floor, of course, has broken this morning. It hasn't really broken on a strong rally on dollar yet, but nonetheless it has broken. If we go down to the 50, what we'd be looking at is here's our sorry, wait a second. Okay, this is where I got it. Right, this is for the latest move. This is the impulse up. This is the 38.2% retracement. I've got the 50 at about 1771. We could, on a breakdown through this level, which at the moment we are breaking, because we did have nice floor at 1850, beautiful double bottom, peachy. We're losing that this morning. We're down at 1828 at the moment. 1850 tried to hold this morning, and then it spiked through it, down through it on the PMIs as the dollar spiked up. Now equities didn't hold their gains from this morning, but dollar did. And GC has held the losses too. We could be opening up and move down into the 1771 area. So we could then be looking at a larger flag. It is still likely to be a bull flag, but I want you to talk about the possibility it would do this. Unfortunately, gold has actually got there first. And delivered the move before I got to talk about it. But nonetheless, that's what I'm looking at here. We could be on the way to 1770, particularly if US dollar is going to have a big rally. All right, oil. Hang on, let's just go back to the hourly charts first. ZB first, actually. ZB, we have come down and we've broken rising support here. Is that significant? Well, we've got a little double top here. It's not a bad one. And if we get through the weekly pivot, that would have a target in about the 172.20 area. But I wanted to show you the TNX charts too, because what are the TNX charts saying to us here? And let's have a look at those. All right, on the daily chart, no current divergence, but you can see that we rallied. We've got back to the obvious resistance, which is the declining resistance. We've broken it very slightly, and we have a decent looking flag. I mean, it's not an awesome flag, but it's not bad. I don't have quite the 3-touch trend line I'd ideally like to see. But nonetheless, this isn't bad. This could be failing. Now, it hasn't broken any support yet. I've got the TNX support down here in about the 7.7 area. But this could all be a flag, and this could be reversing back into retest the March low on ZB. If that is the case, then I'd be looking for second over double bottom and then a big move up. But what would happen while that was happening? Well, ZB would go up quite a lot. But there is a but here. This is, yesterday, this was a possible RSI 14 buy signal brewing. That's fixed on the 60-minute. Sorry, RSI 14, and we had an RSI 512, and actually that's made target this morning. We've got an open RSI 14 buy signal. It's weakish, but perfectly valid. We could head back and retest this high on TNX. What would that do? It sends EV down. And I'm wondering if we might actually go back and retest this low on ZB. And obviously that would be a significant move. So I'm watching support at the monthly pivot, which was 3, weekly pivot. If we break and convert the weekly pivot to resistance, we could well do that move. And that is something to very much bear in mind, because that could be pretty painful. CL, I've been talking about a retest of this high based on the triangle, breakup, etc., and we've seen the retest of this high. Is that it? Sam's talking about a potential double top here. Is there a potential double top here? And the answer is initially no, because we have gone back and retested one high, but we haven't gone and retested the main one. Hang on, sorry. Let's have a look at the Rth chart. Now here, you can see this is the high that we've just retested, but this is the main high. And if we're going to form, well, there's two options here. We can make a lower high, and actually it wouldn't be a bad place for that. In which case we could then head down, let's say, into the 31 area, 30 area, the minimum 38.2% retracements and about 29.63 area. Maybe we'd be looking at that, and that would be A, B, C. But the thing is, again, like the US dollar, this was a very, very narrow retracement. It didn't reach, I mean, it looked more on the futures, but this didn't get anywhere close to the 38.2. And sometimes that means that you're not finished with the retracement, and it could be that you're topping out. If we went and did a full retest this high, this would actually set up a potential level top with a target in the 24 area, and that 24 area is only slightly past the 50%. So that potentially, theoretically, would be doable. I don't know whether that's actually credible to make. I think there's a fair amount of support under the price at the moment, but nonetheless, I'm thinking we can make a lower low and get down into the 30 area. And it may be that we're going to head there next. In the short term, we've retested this high. We could see a reversal here. We don't have a 60-minute sell signal yet. It'd be nice to see a retest this high. Might well see that. But if we see a hard fail here, then this would have a target down, a sustained break below the 40.4 area. Would have a look, target in the 37.3 area, just below the monthly pivot. And that could be the start of a move that would take us down into the 29.30 area, which would be a more appropriate size retracement. So is that credible? Yes. So that's what Stan's got planned at the moment, and that could happen. Right, NG. I think I've got some daily positive divergence here. Let's just check. But I'm pretty sure I've got a daily RSI 5 buy signal brewing. Let's have a look. Daily. No, I don't. We would need another retest of the low to set that up. But we are in rally mode at the moment. We've broken up from the small falling wedge, and I think we are bottoming out. On the futures chart, we've actually made the double top target pretty nicely. I'm watching for the break of the declining resistance currently in the 3.01 area, but I think this is actually setting up to be a pretty nice long after a really nice move down. I'm expecting to see this as a buying opportunity, but I think we may well need another retest of the low and some more bottoming action before it develops. GC we've already covered. SI has gone down with GC. We've now retested this low, and it's now increasingly likely we can come back and retest this low, which is down in the 22.6 area. HG has gone down with the precious metals, no particular reason. No negative divergence here. This is a potential level top or possible part formed head and shoulders. I would say, though, I've got a compelling target up in the 3.3 area, and we haven't made it yet. I'm slightly skeptical about seeing a big retracement before we get there. Okay, USD didn't quite make the target at the retest of the high. Fairly hard rejection here. Might need some more action, might need to retest that high, but if dollar's going to have a big rally, then your USD is going to decline. Excluding this suspect bar here, we made higher high on GBP USD. Again, that hasn't made the obvious target, which is the retest of this high here, slightly under 1.35, but we could be making some kind of a high here. Again, I'd be leaning towards seeing a bit higher first. Usd Jpy, now this is an interesting one because this actually took off like a rocket with the PMI numbers this morning. I'm not quite sure why that is. It might just be because US dollar spiked up. I think it looked like more than that. But anyway, we broke declining resistance. The 60-minute buy signal has most definitely made target. So watching to see, this might just be a 50 back, and this may well need a retest the low to set up a decent bottoming pattern. USD CAD. Again, went up with dollar. Stands pretty bullish on the USD CAD and likes the bottoming setup here. Not really seeing a bottoming setup here. Maybe double bottom. Very ugly inverted head and shoulders, maybe. But there's no real classical setup here. And I would say we had a decent looking inverted head and shoulders, and that broke down that foul. Normally, we would say retest the low. Not always, but usually. So I'm wondering about that. I'm also slightly skeptical about the dollar having a big rally, but I'm aware of the possibility and I've been looking at it. Okay, Australian dollar, nice looking potential level top here, could be reversing down. Not sure I'd want to be betting against it, really. NZUSD has broken channel support and may well be topping out here short term, which is giving more weight to the downside in Australian dollar, I would say. But no current divergence, although I would say on NZ, we've got possible daily RSI 5 and RSI 14 sell signals spraying, so this is actually pretty attractive on the downside. KC. KC, we finally saw a retracement. First sell signal failed, the second sell signal failed, and the third one reached target. Well, more or less. It's could we be forming a head and shoulders here, which is now breaking down slightly? Yes, we could. And if this was to make target, this would get us back to the monthly pivot and slightly below, maybe into about the 1.085 area. Now, alternatively, of course, when you break down from head and shoulders, you can reject back up into the high. This could be the second low of a double bottom. If RSI had got a bit lower, we'd have a buy signal forming here, a bit of positive divergence. As it is, we don't, because they only start counting when it reaches 30 and never reached 30. So we've got a situation, we've got an inflection point here. It's likely to choose one way or the other. So I'm thinking the next move is going to be down to either the monthly pivot or it's going to be a retest of this high. Okay, SB. SB, heading down slightly, could be a bull flag forming, but I'm wondering about a possible test of the rising support currently in the 14.7 area. CC, wow, what a rocket. We have some negative divergence here, and we've actually got a weak sell signal trying to fix. Not sure I'd want to get in front of this one though. ZW, we actually tested on the bigger picture a very nice support trend line here, and that hasn't broken yet. If it does, that opens up potential further downside. But I think this is one reason we haven't actually reached this channel support yet. This could hold, and if this low, if the 593 area holds, then chances are we're heading up. And I'm watching declining resistance currently in the 618.5 area. Corn. Corn, no current divergence, might be looking a bit toppy, potential level top here, we'll see. Soy, we've got a weak 6-minute sell signal fix. Not wild about this as a pattern really, but we do have a short-term potential little level top here. A sustained break below the 1177 area would probably look for about the 1155 area. Cotton. Cotton, this has gone up. It killed off the negative divergence. We've much more than retested this high, and I've been talking for weeks about a possible target in the 76 area. It looks like we are on the way there. Lumber. Lumber, 60-minute sell signal fixed, then it went higher. Not sure what's happening here, but I've got a decent looking potential wedge forming here, but it's moved my trend line each time I reopened the chart today, so I've moved this twice already. Let's move that because we've not broken. It looks like we've broken the declining resistance, rising support, but actually we haven't. Let's have a quick look at that. I'll move it again and hope that it won't be moving it again for me this time. It sort of helpfully moves my trend lines around to help to help me if I can't draw trend lines. I can draw trend lines. I find this kind of annoying. It's but every software system has its quirks. All right, that's rising support. and we are not close to a break of it. So if we break and convert the weekly pivot, we might be looking at something on the downside till then. And this is quite a strong uptrend, although we do have a potential wedge forming, and it's possible if this is a wedge that we've already overthrown resistance slightly, because actually that's not bad. So I'm watching for a break of the rising support. We will see how that goes. Live cattle made it up to declining resistance. And waiting to see what happens there. 60-minute buy signal fixed, and that's not reached the possible near miss target yet. I'm expecting to see higher. I think this may well have all been a bull flag, and I think this may be flag resistance, setting up a retest of this high. Lean hogs, I've been mentioning the nice looking bottoming setup here for days and days and days. The lean hogs did absolutely nothing. Really, I was starting to think it was mocking me. But finally, it has delivered. The 60-minute buy signal has reached target. The double bottom has reached the smaller target, though not the extended one, which would be slightly higher. This move is played out. No current negative divergence, trying to establish support at the month pivot. If it can do that, then this can actually continue upwards. If it can't, then it may well reverse this move, and this is the move I've been waiting for, which was suddenly delivered all in one candle. Well, okay, in 5 candles, but in a very short time. So we will see. Okay, what questions we got today, guys? Stan said Friday that the dispute between the US Fed and the Treasury could be a crash-type scenario. The Fed did send out a letter after the close that they would return the money to the Treasury as requested. Are you aware of the issue? And if so, how do you view the possible import of it? Yes, I am aware of this. I mentioned it to Stan initially, actually, I think. Yes, I did. And what it is that part of the money for the COVID relief package was that the Fed would be allowed, I think something like $400 billion would be delivered to the Fed, which they could use to support liquidity in credit markets. Now, what Mnuchin has done, the Treasury Secretary, is he's written to them and said that it's time to return it. Now, what are his motivations for doing that? I don't know. And as it happens, the Treasury's not really used that money much. They used a lot of it, but mainly the fact it was there was reassuring enough for the markets that you didn't actually need to use it. That's not uncommon. So the question is, what would the impact be when it's not there? Good question. But potentially serious, particularly as Congress hasn't actually passed the relief bill. So the second COVID bill, they just buggered off on holiday without passing it. So that is potentially a problem. So it's not something I think is necessarily serious. And the Fed has said it's going to return the money to the Treasury. It did advise strongly against this. If the money is returned to Congress, I don't know, it might actually just get returned to the Fed, but equally Congress has been rather slow to do anything about COVID relief at the moment. I'm not that concerned about it, but I am thinking if the credit markets start looking rather strained due to, well, I mean, we've got lockdowns, runaway COVID infections, so we've got, I mean, there's certainly still economic issues, although it does look as though, amazingly, we've got 3 vaccines here. I think this COVID may actually have launched a new era in vaccines, with RNA vaccines and so on and so forth, with the whole market being just turned over. And I suspect vaccines are a lot easier to do and produce in the future than they ever have been in the past. But we're going to have some economic disruption on the way. Vaccines aren't going to be widely available, I would have thought, for a month or 2. We will see. But there will be some economic disruption. If credit markets get stressed, then actually not having that money could cause a significant problem. But I don't think it is necessarily an issue. I am wondering what Mnuchin's motives are. I do wonder if he's just poisoning the coffee for the incoming administration. But we will see. But I think provisionally, hopefully, it won't cause any serious disruption. The Fed advised against doing this, though, and I'm not sure why they did it. Okay, any more questions, guys? Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about the US dollar and gold things and oil, But the gold thing, we've just gone through that support level. That was holding like a champ, but it's gone now, where we've spent most of the morning below it. That's opening up the 50, particularly in the event that we do see that DX rally, which, in theory, is quite possible. In practice, I'm wondering. There's a lot of downward pressure on the dollar, but could it deliver a larger rally than that? You quite often see. I mean, actually, if you look for when retests happen when you never thought they were going to, but they sometimes happen, just go to the retest and then just fail. Look at the dollar. Look at the dollar retest of the high from years ago, the 2016 high. I think. I mean, that one we've been talking about the possibility. It just spiked up there and fell. You do see that sometimes, and it's the same with 50% retracements. Sometimes it just really wants to do it, even though it seems unlikely, and just goes and gets the target. And we might do that on dollar. And if we do see that, then we're going to have a hell of a buying opportunity coming up for precious metals, which will be great. All right, guys. Anyway, I'll have this posted as soon as possible. I'll catch you later. I'm still looking. We missed the AM high today because there was no divergence there. The overall setup here is pretty bearish. I think we could well head back and retest Friday's lows from here, and we may well go lower from there. I'm liking the 3480 target, particularly with fixed sell signals on Dow and SPX already on the daily RSI 5s, and another one brewing on IWM. A bit more downside, that'll fix too, in which case 3480 should be more than doable, and it is the obvious target. All right, cheers guys, I'll catch you later.